When your child struggles with their homework, you slide into the chair beside them. You guide their pencil. You simplify the problem. Because watching them struggle feels unbearable. But what you might not realize is this. Every time you rescue them, you're training their brain to expect rescue. And that pattern, it's quietly stealing their ability to struggle. Today, I'm going to show you the one shift that breaks this pattern and raises a truly mature child. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like. Your child sits at the kitchen table staring at their homework. Their face crumples. I can't do this. So you slide into the chair beside them. You guide their pencil. You simplify the problem. You basically do it for them. Or it's Tuesday morning. You're running late. Your 7-year-old fumbles with their shoelaces. 30 seconds pass. You can't take it anymore. You kneel down and tie them yourself. Or your child comes home upset about recess. Someone was mean. So you immediately text the other parent. You schedule a meeting. You fix it before your child even finishes crying. Now, here's what I know. Every intervention comes from love. You're protecting them from pain, from failure, from that crushing feeling of not being good enough. But here's the thing. Each time you remove a tiny struggle, your child loses a tiny chance to grow. And over time, those tiny losses compound into something much bigger. They compound into a child who expects rescue. A child who waits for someone else to solve their problems. A child who never develops the internal strength to handle discomfort on their own. And here's what most parents don't realize. This isn't happening because you're doing something wrong. It's happening because your instinct to protect is working exactly as designed. The problem is, short-term protection and long-term growth often require different approaches. So let me show you what's actually happening underneath those moments. When you constantly step in, something happens in your child's brain. Not a conscious lesson, a subconscious one. Their brain learns this. When things get hard, I don't need to figure it out. Someone will take over. Now, you're probably thinking, but my child really does need help sometimes. Absolutely. But here's the crucial difference. And this is where most loving parents get tripped up. There's a massive gap between supporting a child through struggle and eliminating the struggle entirely. One builds resilience. The other builds dependence. Let me show you exactly how this pattern forms. Child encounters problem, experiences frustration, you remove frustration. Child's brain registers. I don't have to handle this. Next time, child escalates faster. You step in sooner. Loop deepens. I call these dependence loops. And with each repetition, the loop gets stronger. Your child's tolerance for struggle gets lower. Their expectation of rescue gets higher. And here's what that costs them. Maturity stalls. Because maturity isn't about age. It's not about hitting a certain birthday or grade level. Maturity is the ability to tolerate discomfort long enough to solve your own problems. Now, think about the adults in your life who never learned this. The ones who fall apart at the first sign of conflict. The ones who can't sit with uncertainty. The ones who need someone else to regulate their emotions for them. Those patterns didn't start in adulthood. They started in childhood, in small moments, in well-meaning interventions that accidentally taught the wrong lesson. But understanding this doesn't make you a bad parent. It makes you a parent ready to make a shift. And that shift starts with understanding what your child's brain actually needs to develop maturity. Your child's brain has a superpower. It's called neuroplasticity. It means the brain physically rewires itself based on experience. And one of the most important things it needs to develop? Frustration tolerance. Let me break this down simply. There's a part of your child's brain called the prefrontal cortex. This is basically the CEO of the brain. It handles problem-solving, emotional regulation, impulse control, and decision-making. All the skills we associate with maturity. But here's the catch. The prefrontal cortex only strengthens through practice. And practice only happens when a child is allowed to sit in mild discomfort. Think of it like a muscle. You wouldn't carry your child everywhere and expect their legs to strengthen. Walking builds leg strength. Struggle builds frustration tolerance. Every time your child encounters a problem and works through it, even imperfectly, neurons fire in the prefrontal cortex. Pathways strengthen. The brain physically rewires itself to say, I can handle this. But when you remove the struggle, those pathways never form. Now, let me be clear about something important. I'm not talking about leaving your child in overwhelming distress. That doesn't build resilience. It creates trauma. This is because overwhelming stress, or toxic stress, floods the brain with cortisol, effectively shutting down the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of the brain, and activating the primitive fight or flight survival response. Learning is impossible in that state. What builds resilience is tolerable stress, the kind of struggle that's just challenging enough to require effort, but not so overwhelming that the child shuts down completely. This sweet spot where the task is just hard enough to require help is what psychologists call the zone of proximal development. The feeling your child gets in that zone is tolerable stress. And that is the key to growth. Here's a real example of how this works. An 8-year-old gets stuck on a math problem, stares at it for maybe 20 seconds, then turns to her parent with pleading eyes. The parent's instinct: explain it immediately, walk her through it, save her from the discomfort. But instead, the parent says, "You're stuck on the first step. What have you tried?" She hasn't tried anything yet. She just hit the feeling of difficulty and immediately looked for rescue. So the parent waits, stays present, but doesn't solve it. And after about 30 seconds, which feels like an eternity, she looks back at the problem. She tries something. Wrong. She tries again. Still wrong. But then on the third attempt, something clicks. The look on her face isn't just pride, it's something deeper. It's the beginning of self-trust. I've watched this exact scenario play out dozens of times and used this approach myself. That look of self-trust, it's the beginning of maturity building in real time. So you can see how this works in theory. But I know what you're thinking. How do I actually do this when my child is melting down in front of me? Let me show you exactly how. Here's exactly how you raise a mature child. You pause, just 5 seconds. That's it. That's the starting point of everything. And this simple method applies to any family, any age, any challenge. The micro-delay method. 5 simple steps that build frustration tolerance. Step 1. Pause for 5 seconds before intervening. When your child encounters a problem and looks to you for help, resist the urge to immediately solve it. Count to 5. Give their brain time to search for a solution. Why 5 seconds? Because it's just long enough to break your own habit of immediate rescuing. And it creates a small window of silence that prompts your child's brain to start searching for its own solution. Those 5 seconds create a window. And in that window, your child's brain must search. And that searching, that's where maturity is born. Step 2. Reflect the problem without solving it. After your pause, acknowledge what you see. Use simple, neutral language. You're stuck on that part. You're trying to figure out how to start. That's frustrating. You're not ignoring them. You're not dismissing their struggle. You're simply naming what's happening without removing it. Step 3. Invite your child's attempt. This is where the magic happens. Instead of giving the answer, ask a question that redirects them back to their own thinking. What's your idea? What have you tried so far? What do you think might work? These questions signal something crucial to your child. I believe you have the capacity to figure this out. Step 4. Offer tiered support, not solutions. If your child genuinely cannot proceed after trying, you don't leave them stuck. You offer support, but in layers. First layer. What's the first small thing you could try? Second layer. Would it help if I stayed here while you work on it? Third layer. Let me show you how to start, and then you take over. Notice, none of these are you doing it for them. You're scaffolding. You're providing just enough support for them to succeed on their own. Step 5. Praise. The process. Stay calm throughout. When your child works through something, resist the urge to focus only on whether they got it right. Instead of, "Good job, you got the right answer." Try, "I noticed you kept trying even when it was hard." That's real strength. This approach is proven to build what psychologists call a growth mindset. The belief that intelligence and skill can be developed through effort. This is far more powerful than a fixed mindset, which is the belief that you're just smart or not smart. Why? Because you're reinforcing persistence. And here's the critical part. Your child regulates their emotions by co-regulating with you. If you're anxious watching them struggle, they'll absorb that anxiety. If you're calm and confident, they'll absorb that too. Your emotional state is the container they're working in. Keep it steady. Now, let me show you what this looks like in real time. Notice the difference between the old pattern and the micro-delay method. Scenario 1, shoe tying. Child, "I can't tie my shoes." Old response, you immediately kneel down and tie them. Micro-delay method. Pause, count to 5. Reflect, "You're having trouble with that loop." Invite, "Show me what you've tried." Child attempts, struggles, tiered support. What if you make the loops bigger? Try that. Child succeeds or gets closer. Praise, "You stuck with it." That's how you learn hard things. See that? You're not doing it for them. You're staying present while they build the skill. Scenario 2, social struggle. Child, nobody will play with me at recess. Old response, you immediately call the school or arrange play dates. Micro delay. Method, pause. Let them sit with the feeling for a moment. Reflect, that sounds really lonely. Invite, what have you tried when this happened before? Child thinks, might say, nothing, or I just stood there. Tiered support, what's one small thing you could do tomorrow? Child generates ideas with your guidance. Praise, you're thinking about solutions. That's mature. See the shift? You're not abandoning them, you're not being cold. You're staying present while moving from solver to supporter. And over time, this shift creates something extraordinary. It creates a child who doesn't immediately look outside themselves when things get hard. A child who develops internal problem-solving capacity. A child who builds genuine confidence, not from being told they're capable, but from experiencing their own capability. That's maturity. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but my child gets really overwhelmed. Won't this make them feel abandoned? This is one of the most common concerns parents have, and the answer is no. Here's why. You're not walking away. You're staying right there. Your presence is the safety net that allows them to try. The key is calibration. You're reading your child. If they're genuinely overwhelmed, shutting down, or panicking, that's your signal to offer more support. You adjust. This isn't about being rigid. It's about being responsive. What if my child just gives up? That's actually valuable information. If your child immediately gives up, their frustration tolerance is low, which means they need this practice even more, just in smaller doses. Start with tiny challenges, build gradually, celebrate tiny efforts, even failed attempts. You're not looking for perfection, you're looking for progress. But we don't have time for this in the morning rush. I get it, real life doesn't wait, but here's what you need to know. The 5-second pause takes 5 seconds. And the long-term time you save by raising a self-sufficient child? Immeasurable. Start small. Practice during low-stakes moments, weekend mornings, homework time, then gradually expand. Please don't worry. This doesn't mean you stop helping. You don't become cold or distant. You stay warm, present, and supportive. You simply shift from solving the problem to supporting the attempt. And that shift, small as it sounds, changes everything. Here's what I want you to remember. Maturity isn't built through protection. It's built through small struggles supported by your calm presence. Every time you pause for 5 seconds, you give your child the gift of discovering their own capacity. Every time you reflect instead of rescue, you strengthen the problem-solving circuits in their brain. Every time you stay present through discomfort, you teach them they can handle hard things. This isn't about being a perfect parent. None of us are. It's about making one small shift that compounds over time. So start today. Try the 5-second micro delay. Pick one small moment, one homework question, one shoe tying session, one minor frustration, and just pause. Stay present. Watch what happens when you give your child room to discover what they're already capable of. Because here's the truth. Your child is capable of so much more than you think. They just need you to believe it first. Now, this micro-delay method builds frustration tolerance, which is crucial. But there's another element of maturity that's equally important: independence. And there's a powerful Scandinavian approach that takes this even further. If you want to see how cultures that produce some of the most independent children in the world do it, click and watch my video on the Scandinavian method to raise independent children. It picks up exactly where this leaves off.